Hello viewers, welcome to Health is Wealth. Yes, one more Wednesday and 7:30, and what a time it is to celebrate autism. We are trying to create more awareness for this big reason, and that is why Mana TV is helping us. And this month, April, we are dedicating all 4 episodes towards autism. And tonight our most off the part is mostly for the transition period of a child and towards their adulthood. So let's welcome Dr. Mehrotra again, and of course all the time for this beautiful show that is Health is Wealth. So Dr. Mehrotra, welcome again.
Thank you so much, Ragini, to have me here again. It's once again a great platform that Mana TV has given us to raise awareness about our children of special needs, and especially in the month of Autism Awareness Month this April. That's what we are focusing on. And today it's the other end of the spectrum, or not the other end, let's say. It's another phase of life where as the child approaches adulthood, what are some of the things that we as a community need to understand? And that's what we're doing today.
Absolutely, and you can see our viewers that we have beautiful guests here already. And Naveen, I would like you to introduce all of them, please.
Sure. To my right is Vasu. Vasu is the mother of an almost adult child with Down syndrome. Welcome, Vasu. Thank you so much for being here.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Thank you.
Next to Vasu, we have Dr. Arun Karpur, who is the Director of Data Sciences and Research at a large international organization called Autism Speaks. Welcome, Dr. Karpur.
Thank you. Thank you, Madam.
And finally, the last person on the panel is Ms. Leslie Long, who is the Director for Adult Services at Autism Speaks. Thank you so much, Ms. Long, for being here and educating our viewers about the issues around approaching adulthood.
Thank you.
So the first question I would like to ask Vasu, being a mom of a special need kid, okay, so what is your transition plans that you are going through right now?
Can I begin by giving a shout out to my kids?
Please do.
Hey, Prisha and Pratik. Hope you guys are watching this. So of my 2 kids, Pratik, my son, is 20 years old. And for people who do not know this, when your child transitions into adulthood, it's a very different ball game from when they're in school. School is such a protected environment where everything that you want for your child is taken care of. It's almost as if from the minute they get onto the bus and they get off the bus, you don't need to worry about anything and everything. But as they start to get ready for adulthood, it is not like a typical child, not like a typical son or daughter who goes to college or chooses to not go to college. But instead, you have to think about what would a meaningful life for them be like. And making meaning for their life largely falls on the parents, simply because of their limitations in terms of their ability to plan long-term, plan for the immediate future. It's not that they do not have desires and aspirations, but it's their lack of ability to communicate that to you. So you have to actually be their thought. You have to actually be their aspiration and plan for everything. And once they turn 21, all the school services simply fall off the grid, and you're pretty much looking at figuring out a whole lot of stuff on your own. Of course, there are agencies which will help you do that, but then it's more in isolated pockets rather than an integrated system. And I think the first big challenge that I face today is learning life after school for my son.
Wow. That sounds like a huge task and huge undertaking. I know we're talking about special needs, but we have an organization called Autism Speaks, which has a division for adult services. How does that come into play, Leslie? Can you tell us a little bit about Autism Speaks and what you actually do?
So Autism Speaks is a global organization, as you mentioned, an advocacy organization. We look at enhancing lives today and accelerating interventions for tomorrow throughout the spectrum. But I had the fortunate ability to work on transition for many years. So transition, as you mentioned, is similar for everybody that has a developmental disability. You have the school system that is very maternal, that has all the systems in place, transportation, education, when that ends, and it could be somebody accepting their diploma or staying until their 21st birthday, it's up to, as you said, the parent to figure out a lot of times, where do I go next? Who's going to be providing employment support? Who's going to be helping me with transportation? So at Autism Speaks, one of the things we try and do is really educate the individual and the family on what's going to happen when they leave the school system. What do they need to look for? What do they need to start thinking about starting at age 14? Because that's really when you should start planning adult services, is when your child is 14.
Wow.
But yeah, it's never too late, you know, and that's really important for families to know. So if a child is 15, 16, or as your son 20, you can start looking at adult services now, and you really need to. So we have to make sure that people know it's never too late and it's never too early, really.
Right, and I think as a lot of our viewers, you know, as parents, they might be thinking about SATs, they might be thinking about classes, but there's so many other things that a parent of special needs has to look into, right?
Yes.
And it's a huge task. I know some of the things that they talk about is the importance of research and why that is a key factor in advocacy. Why can you enlighten us, Dr. Kapoor?
So the field of transition to adulthood now has been about 25 years old. Since the Americans with Disabilities Act was passed and the Individuals with Disabilities Education Act was enacted. Since then, the transition has been at the forefront of a discussion in the policymaking circle, if not in the families. But since then, we have done many different things. We have tried many different models. The federal government, the state government, the local government has funded a lot of these type of projects. But even till date, as a researcher, I lament the fact that we lack evidence as to understanding as what works for a given set of individuals with special needs. And it might be a surprising fact for the audience to know is that there are many models that provide services, there are many approaches, but we still aren't in a position to be able to agree as to what really works in a sense where the policymakers, where the legislators are able to put their political capital on the line saying, you know what, we are ready to do this. So this is where research is extremely important in a sense to be able to identify the factors that would make a person's transition successful one. Now, as we increasingly see the world is getting complicated and complex, the transition period, initially it was thought that a person, if they turn 21, that's what we have the archaic system right now saying, if somebody turns 21, boom, you're adult, you're on your own. And I think it's based on that understanding and thinking of the older times. But now, the transition to adulthood takes a much longer time. And the complexities of the world start figuring in. The utilization of social media. Who knew? That was another skill we will have to teach our kids. I'm worried if I have a 5-year-old child and now I have to think about teaching her those type of skills. So as the complexities of the world grew, we continue to understand as to how those things end up impacting the young adult as well as their family members. And this is where our research approaches are extremely necessary for us to be able to provide the valuable evidence to the policymakers to bring about those type of public policy changes, as well as enhancing, supporting different specific programs that are providing services to these young people.
One thing that we do know, and it's shown in longitudinal studies, that if students are working before they leave school, that is a #1 indicator of success in the future. So it is so critical that even though we are looking at what are best practices, and the research is critical to understanding what really works, but we do know longitudinally, if a student has a job when they're in school, the increase of success in adulthood is much better than not having a job.
So, Leslie, On this, I just want to ask you. So what do you think about our community, or the support they can give to take a special need child under their employment?
Well, first of all, what is really important, I think, for families to know is you really need to look at the strengths of an individual. It's so important to understand their strengths because you're now, that person is transitioning into an adult. What are they good at? What do they love to do? And having an assessment that really points out what are they good at? What do they love? What are their skills? But also, what are their support needs? And so with employment, we're finding there are so many talents of people that are untapped. And while they're in school and while they have the entitlement of education, they should be trying different jobs. We talked about this earlier. You know, can they go out and try? They're interested in bakeries, or they're interested in computers, or they're interested in any type of art. That has to be practiced and tried while they're in school, because once they leave school, as you were saying, the system is so complicated that you don't want to be experimenting too much. But you can experiment while you're in school and try different jobs out. Employers are learning there's such a return on investment to hire somebody with a developmental disability because they're so loyal to the employer. They're looking for a job that they can have a career where they can go and they can become part of that culture. So usually that turns into customer loyalty. You've seen articles where companies are really learning that their customer base is loyal when they're hiring people with special needs because the talent of that population is so strong. But it's untapped. So so while they're in school is the time to really talk to the employers, experiment with jobs, look for strengths. That's really critical for families.
So is that something that you've tried?
Absolutely, yes. Like we were discussing outside too. This is something which maybe we as parents are a little late to the game. I started this work about 2 years ago, starting to work with the Division of Vocational Rehabilitation. And today, as of today, my struggle is to find my son a summer job. Nothing that is fancy, something which will take him out for at least a few hours, twice or thrice in a week, to exactly speak to your point of, I'm glad research shows this, that if you already have that experience before you go into adulthood, you're able to more successfully be employed as an adult, as a complete adult. So we are trying to work that out. And I also want to bring one very critical piece, which is a huge challenge for us parents, and everybody out there who's a parent of a child with special needs will agree: driving, transportation. I'm not sure if research indicates this, but that is a huge challenge. How do these kids get themselves to their place of work? And what are the options out there?
So maybe I think this is something that our viewers, if they have a transportation company, if they have some sort of a business that they run, they can start to think and make such a huge difference in the lives of so many families, right? So
if I may add to what you were talking about, Naveen, is the way our communities can be helpful is, and I've talked to mostly South Asian families specifically, is many of our South Asian families are entrepreneurs, they are small business owners, and they are living the American dream that everybody cherishes here in this country. To them, I would say, is give a chance to a child who may have a disability. They would do wonders for you, and you would learn so much from them. One thing I do want to impress upon the audience, and this might sound a little dramatic, but I will still do it. Today, my phone is better because of people with disabilities. If people with disabilities would not have continually interacted with devices and told us how to make it better, I wouldn't have been able to use it, because guess what? I do have a bifocal lens and I'm able to use it because of the special accessibility that is built. So this is how we as a society can take an advantage of including many more people with disabilities in our workforce. And the last one point I do want to make here is from the business perspective, people with disabilities have considerable economic power in this country and around the world. There's this recent study that just came off hot out of press, which indicates that people with disabilities, if they quantify the purchasing power today in this country for people with disabilities, it is about $450 billion.
Yeah.
And now,
Wow.
who doesn't
Wow.
like that money? Who doesn't like that
That's
kind of
that's
That's
amazing.
incredible.
That's really
Yeah,
yeah.
that is
And
a big-
and it is not insubstantial amount. So I think there is a business value in being more inclusive. There's a business value in being able to support people with disabilities. We've got to get away from a charity or a medical model to a model where we all recognize that we have different sorts of needs and we cater to each other in that fashion.
So I would like to ask you that well, we are talking about the employment and everything. So how they will take the peer pressure on themselves? I mean, how you will guide them through to have a better place and position in the workplace?
So one of the things, there's great momentum that started
Yeah.
several years ago with Walgreens.
Okay.
There was a vice president of Walgreens who has a son on the autism spectrum, and he was thinking, as you were, where's my son going to work and what is he going to do when he's older? And he decided to have a hiring initiative at Walgreens in the distribution center. So he created all kinds of visual supports. He created supports that he never realized would be good for anybody. Somebody with a back injury the lifts that they use to move the product. When they were done creating this distribution center that would support anybody with any disability, they found that their production rate was about 40% higher. It was the highest production of the distribution centers throughout Walgreens. So Walgreens adopted this model that they knew if they invested in not only individuals with disabilities, but really, again, helped everyone, it became this incredible model across the country. Now we're seeing Microsoft, as you were saying, people with disabilities have this talent. So we really try and tackle it from a 30,000-foot view and from the individual. So for example, we have a disability consultant that works with companies across the country that looks at hiring initiatives for people with developmental disabilities. We have places like Cintas, which is an incredible company that's 90 of their sites are having a hiring initiative. Quest Laboratories. So anything from a blue-collar entry-level job that the person could have to IT positions at Microsoft. We try and really be that conduit. We tell you, what companies we help fund, disability consultants, and also we have a transition toolkit at our site that specifically looks at what should you be doing during the transition age for your child. Whether your child's on the spectrum or has Down syndrome or other developmental disability, the laws are the same. So what should you be doing at what age? We have timelines for states. And really, as Arun was saying about policy, we try and show evidence-based practices that prove that you should have a job while you're in school, because the investment in that is going to pay off for society. So we're hoping that we are a conduit, that we can give information to families through our website, through our walks, through coming here, speaking with families. We really try and do the best we can in getting that information out.
So definitely, I think our audience hopefully will take a lot of this information and be able to incorporate that into their workplace or into their business.
Yes, absolutely. And Vasu, another thing is that how you are really working to put up with his self-esteem, because that is a big part playing into all this. It's a huge thing, because I think that your son is very smart, very talented, and he's a great dancer, and I really love him. I'm his fan. And I have the picture on the FB as well, holding him like this, and he's behaving like he's Shah Rukh Khan. So I just love that part. God bless him. But what you are really putting the main effort for his own self-esteem to be higher and higher every day.
So thanks for bringing that up. To add to what they were speaking, Leslie and Dr. Kapoor, it's not that individuals with disabilities don't know their weaknesses. They're very aware of it. And I can speak for it firsthand.
That is the part you have to be very sensitive,
yes.
right? Yeah.
So they're very aware of what their shortcomings are, and which is why probably they compensate it with the areas that they're really good with. And loyalty, like you said, is bang on. You give them a job if they're good at it. Once they get it, of course, they need that job training in the initial period, but once they get it, you don't have to go back and look at it again. And that is what builds the self-esteem. The chance that you're going to give them, the time that you invest in them, telling them that we believe in you. You're aware, we are aware, but here are your strengths, and this is where we believe in you, and this is where we think you can shine. So let's try all these areas and see what is a fit and support. The number one thing you can do for a child with disabilities, just like any other individual who's going through a difficult time, is please don't pity them. Please don't pity them. They don't need your sympathy. They need your support. Everybody and anybody in the community, treat them as equal at their level of capability. I'm not saying treat them as equal as your own child. Everybody has their shortcomings and strengths, but treat them for what they're worth. Identify their strengths, be open with their families, their teachers, their support givers, caregivers, and talk to them. And parents, be open and talk to people about your child, their strengths as well as their weaknesses. You're more likely to get a lot out of this process than if you don't.
I'm just overwhelmed by whatever you were saying right now, Vasu, because it's so hard, and I'm really proud that you are such a strong mom, and it is really for our viewers, because this is the show, Leslie, actually we really want to educate more towards our South Asian parents who are really shy about all these things, and they don't want to come out of their house or their room or mix to the society or mix in the community or take a part in the social activities that we usually do. So Naveen, you can play a part in it, please.
Yeah, no, I mean, I think this is has been a recurrent theme and recurrent message that we've been giving to our audience is that these children and families do not need sympathy. They need empathy, and they need to be, taken care of as if they're just anybody else.
Yeah.
Why should we differentiate? Yes, everybody has some deficiency here or there.
Yeah.
Right. So let's grab everybody and move forward together. And I think that's our message here.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think one thing that's really important is we're all interdependent on each other.
Yeah.
So, I need somebody at work sometimes to remind me to put something on my calendar because I'm going to be out of the office. We all rely on each other as a community. And so to think that that's any different, families feel empowered to talk to your legislator, to talk to your community support person, and don't feel that it's any different than anybody else, because we've all needed support at some point. It's no different.
Can I say something?
Yes,
because
please,
I really have
please.
to say this.
Yes,
We are
yes,
such
please,
an
Vasu.
IQ-driven society that if somebody's IQ is not what we consider to be a good number, we feel they're not worth. But IQ is not the sum total of a human being. A human being is so much more than just the IQ and their intelligence levels. Look at the other qualities, especially for children and adults with intellectual disabilities. IQ literally shuts the door for so many opportunities. Please look past that, and you'll see there are so many strengths that you can make use of.
And I just want to note real quickly that employers are learning to assess people very differently. They're learning to walk them through, have them try a task, because we're finding that that IQ really can't be an indicator. So absolutely, you're 100% right.
So Arun, just what do you think should be the next step on research? Where is the biggest impact that we're going to have?
Well, I'll talk about research in two strands. One, research specifically around autism, and another research specifically for people with disabilities in general. The reason I make that distinction is that when you look at people with autism, there's really dearth of data. At the federal level and at the state and local level, we don't have appropriate data for us to guide in terms of what are some of the specific policies that work. Now, in many instances, as Leslie mentioned, that providing opportunities for work in high school is something that can work for everyone. And those are the areas where we have some data that informs us as to what works. So in that sense, there are initiatives that are happening in different parts of the country where there are bigger experiments. So in my previous work, where we were looking at how we can make different systems work with one another, and these sound a little too esoteric for our audience, but when you think about different government offices, and let's just even think about when we were probably in India and other parts of the country, wherever we come from, to look at where the bureaucracies were trying to work with one another, it's really hard for them to work with one another. So we are experimenting in those spaces where how we bring those systems together so that we can have long-lasting impact. And we are also looking at how we can generate more data and information to help convince policymakers as to where do you have to put your money into. As to as you all know, or many people would know right now, there's a big discussion on work requirements for all different entitlement programs. Now, at this point in time, there is a question being asked as to whether, to what extent those work requirements may end up hurting people who are already are on public benefits program, or whether it might help improve the overall outcomes to mainstreaming them into work. Now, I have my personal opinion about those things, but those are some of the research questions that we need to answer when we look at the bigger policy environment currently right now in this country.
And Vasu, what would you think would make your life easier at this point?
I
As
guess
you look into the transition phase.
I think if there is, at least meet me halfway, the service providers. Right now for parents, you have to learn about everything that's out there. If you don't do your research, so it's on me and my husband right now to do the research, to go. We are literally, my husband spent the last week literally going door to door with all the Wegmans, Whole Foods or Home Depot, Petco, kind of asking if there are any openings so that we could start applying, and they were all very nice. And they did direct us to the website, but right now the onus is on the parents. If your research and the work that you do could inform and move things in a direction where we get met halfway at least, because nobody tells us what is out there. If you're not savvy enough to know it, you lose it.
Wow, okay.
And that is where I think our audience really needs to jump in and maybe, provide that platform.
Absolutely, because we are discussing about this last week as well, and this is a very much this is a very sensitive issue right now that we are facing in our community as well. And Leslie, I would really ask you to say a few words towards our community, towards mostly the South Asian community, where we still are not aware about a lot of things. Please say a few words to them.
So I think one of the most important things you can do is feel empowered with information. Being educated on what your rights are, what your child's rights are so critical. You can go to our website, www.autismspeaks.org, and you can look under transition, adult services, and there's a transition toolkit that will give you step-by-step instructions as to how to advocate for your son or daughter and make sure that they have what they're entitled to, but also what they'd like. So please look at the website, call us with any questions. We have an 800 number. You can get empowered with information. You are a valuable member to our community. We need you. We need your son or daughter to work and feel part of the community. So we encourage you. Be educated, call, and we look forward to helping.
So Naveen.
So Arun, any parting words for our audience?
Disability is a wrong term. It's different ability. It's the different way of doing things. Can you think about the times when you had a back pain and you asked your employer saying, you know what, I need a standing desk. And that probably is your disability, but your employer is not having any problems in providing you that support. So you get the support, you are able again. So as much hard it could be for a family who might not have had a prior exposure with disability, and especially with South Asian families, We're all immigrants to this country. We all come from the cream of the crop on merit. All of those things are fine. But at some point in time, life has its variations. One's disability is a different form of being. It's a different form of life. Let's learn to appreciate that life. Let's learn to care for the life. And it's not just because you want to do good. It's because the life will do 100 times better for you. As I said, people with disability have a huge purchasing power. If we include them, if we target them, if we make them our patrons, you know how much of sales you can get and how much of life you can build. So there is an economic value to it. So let's be kind, considerate, at the same time understand that there is a lot in it for us than just being kind to somebody else.
Thanks. Vasu?
My final words to parents: don't wait. Don't wait for your child to get to an age where it's too late. Just like you plan for your typically developing child, neurotypically developing child, when they need to take the SATs or what college they need to go to, please start planning for your child with special needs even earlier. Start everything earlier than you would for a typical child, because the learning curve is that much more. And you want to, we live in an era of Google. Just Google your question, you'll get the answer. And then if you don't understand, reach out to a friend. Talk to somebody who's been there and done that.
All right, Naveen, it's such a topic that we can really go on.
We can go on and on, and I think once again, my parting words for the viewers is going to be: let's go ahead and create something that will benefit our own.
Absolutely, absolutely. So let's keep it that way. Let's help each other, and let's just come forward for this beautiful cause, and let's make some more awareness. Among us and between us. And of course, if you like our episodes, or if you have anything to say, or if you want to know more, please log on to our Facebook. That is Mana TV, MANA TV, and of course, you can send us your comments under our show that will be uploaded soon. And of course, you can reach to Dr. Mehrotra for anything else that you want to know, and we're all there to help you out. So please don't be shy. Come ahead and talk to us. That is what Vasu was saying, that talk to a friend, but I will say more than a friend, you need to talk to people who really know this.
And thank you very much for our guests tonight.
Absolutely,
And
absolutely.
thank you, Mana TV, for giving us the opportunity to discuss such important issues.
All right, so all my viewers, for tonight, it's a goodbye. See you again next Wednesday, 7:30 to 8, right here, only on Mana TV.